Once in a quiet town nestled between green hills and winding rivers, there lived a father and his son. The father, Mr. Carter, was a simple man, a carpenter by trade. He spent his days working with wood, crafting tables, chairs, and sometimes intricate toys. His son Sam was a bright eyed, curious boy who saw the world as a giant playground and his father as a quiet hero. When Sam was young, he would watch his father work in the small workshop behind their house. The smell of sawdust filled the air, and the rhythmic sound of hammering was a lullaby he'd grown to love. Sam would spend hours observing, asking questions, and watching his father's rough, calloused hands carve beauty out of wood. Mr. Carter would always answer his son patiently, showing him how to hold a chisel, explaining the grain of the wood, and teaching him to be careful. As Sam grew older, he began joining his father, learning the tools and trying his hand at small projects. One day, when he was about 10, he carved a small wooden boat. The edges were rough and it tilted a bit, but his father beamed with pride and declared it a masterpiece. They took it to the river to see if it would float, and as it sailed, albeit wobbly, Mr. Carter placed a reassuring hand on Sam's shoulder. "Everything good in life requires patience, son," he said. "Sometimes things may not turn out the way you hope, but if you give them time and love, they'll always find their way." Over the years, life became busier. As Sam entered high school, his time in the workshop dwindled. He had friends, schoolwork, and a growing interest in sports. He still loved his father, but as many teenagers do, he became caught up in his own world. Mr. Carter didn't mind. He'd sit by the window every evening watching Sam play with his friends in the yard. There was a quiet pride in his heart, mixed with the bittersweet realization that his little boy was growing up. One winter, tragedy struck. Mr. Carter fell ill, and his once strong hands trembled. He could no longer work the way he once did. The workshop became a quiet, lonely place filled with half finished projects and tools gathering dust. Sam was by his side as much as he could be, but his father's decline was hard to witness. He felt helpless, unable to do anything to restore the man who had once been his pillar of strength. One evening, as he sat by his father's bedside, Mr. Carter whispered, "Promise me something, Sam. Don't let the workshop die. Keep building things, keep creating, and remember the joy it brought us." With a heavy heart, Sam promised. And when Mr. Carter passed a few weeks later, the workshop became a place of solace for Sam. At first, he simply sat there, surrounded by the scent of sawdust and the memory of his father's laughter. Slowly, he started picking up the tools again. He began small, carving trinkets, crafting simple furniture, and eventually taking on bigger projects. Years passed, and Sam grew into a man. He became a carpenter like his father and eventually opened a small store to sell his pieces. Every project was a tribute to the man who had taught him not only the skill of his hands but the patience of his heart. And when Sam had children of his own, he took them to the workshop and passed on his father's lessons. One evening, his young daughter presented him with a small wooden boat she had carved on her own. It was rough and unbalanced, just like the one Sam had made for his father long ago. He felt a pang of nostalgia as he watched the boat float, wobbling on the water, and he placed a gentle hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Everything good in life requires patience, my love," he whispered. "Sometimes things may not turn out the way you hope, but if you give them time and love, they'll always find their way." The circle had come full. In that moment, Sam felt his father's presence, a warmth that wrapped around him, a reminder that love, like wood, leaves a lasting mark that no passage of time can ever erase. This story shows that love between a father and child doesn't fade. It only grows stronger, passed down in ways both tangible and invisible, creating a legacy that endures through generations.